Well, good morning, Dallas Fort Worth. It's JP and Dr. B. Thanks for getting up this morning and sharing your first cup of coffee. More than likely, you have gotten out of that bed and you have jumped up. I'll tell you, it's Monday morning and you're super excited about joining JP and Dr. B. And we're excited about having you. Dr. B is off today. And if you hear a funny buzz on your radio, it's not your radio. It's probably my microphone. So just kind of hang out with us with that buzz. We'll get you buzzing around the room this morning and get you ready to go. We've got Dr. Norm Clothier in studio with us. Good morning, Dr. Clothier.
Good morning. And you're supposed to create a buzz, aren't you? With
You
the
are.
Radio discussion.
Yeah, creating a buzz.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what. You know, your followers, Dr. Clothier, they love your jokes, and so
Yeah.
you can't stop. I mean, you've got to keep that going. And then, of course, we've got Callie Robinson with us. She is one of our new co-hosts. Callie, good morning. How are you this morning?
Good morning. It's Monday.
And
I'm
it-
wide awake.
And if you're wondering,
Good.
she was Mustang Callie, but we have advanced her from being an intern to an actual co-host now. So she is actually a part of the JP and Dr. B team. So we got to come
Well,
up with
congratulations.
I know, isn't that
Great.
exciting? That's pretty exciting. So
I missed the ceremony
you
somehow,
did miss the ceremony. Well, it
but
was
congratulations.
a good reception. No
Yeah.
no refreshments provided. So it was a good reception.
We're on JP's budget.
That's right. Good morning, Action
No
Jackson.
buzz in that reception.
How are you this morning, Action? It's Monday morning. I love Monday mornings. Of course, we would be remiss in not saying that it's also Martin Luther King Day
It is.
Indeed.
on your federal calendar. What's that? There's no such thing as a day off. Martin Luther King never took a day off. There was no day off to civil rights. The march continued. And
Very
so,
true.
in light of his service, we are in today trying to provide a good service for the people of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And folks, today we are introducing our spot, the Dallas Sports Insider, where Callie and I will break down all of your sports, whether it be NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, hockey with the Dallas Stars, or your local sports between all of your fun high schools that love to compete in all kinds of areas of sports, whether it's girls basketball, boys basketball, wrestling, soccer, you talk it, we're here to talk with you about it. So, but first, let's jump right into the controversial topic of women's health. I'll tell you what, Dr. Clothier, did a little research this weekend and found that, you know, just about every doctor disagrees with about every doctor.
Absolutely.
I
You know,
mean,
it's
I
an
don't know.
interesting thing in medicine because we really are trained, and we were just talking off air a minute ago about internship hours and residency. Part of the idea of training in medicine is to be fully independent. It's to make the decision that is the appropriate one for that patient at that moment with that crisis. And in the midst of becoming completely independent in that process, it's rare for doctors to really agree on what the right treatment is on something. And that kind of, I think that goes against what some people think. You picture, you know, sort of a guideline or a universal treatment type of an idea or a protocol. And there absolutely are treatment guidelines and protocols and such out there. But the bottom line is every person is different, every situation is different, and I think people really need to realize their doctor has their best interests in mind at any given time. And that's why we tend to not agree when we hear universal guidelines, like, for instance, the one you may be referring to is the statement a couple weeks ago that mammograms should be done once a year from 45 to 54, and then consider every other year after that to see what happens. I can tell you, I've had so many patients over time develop a breast mass within a 2-year period that would have been in a gap in that screening process that, you know, we can't just get comfortable with the idea of not screening until 45 and then screening maybe every other year after 54, and that's part of the challenging process.
Well, I'll tell you what, Dr. Clothier, you know, I went back after your segment last week when we were talking about this, and I discussed it with some of the women that are around me, and
Sure.
I told them, I said, were you aware of the fact that there's kind of this big thing out there now that after 54, if there's something really wrong with you, they just kind of say, well, good luck with that, and we're not going to bother anymore with this. And actually, I was surprised they did, and they're like, we're not real happy with this.
Absolutely. And of interest, after we met last week, there was a meeting of the American Academy of Family Physicians, of which I'm a member, and the American Medical Association, which I'm a member too, and 2 other groups, the American College of Gynecologists and Obstetricians, and a group that studies cancer research, not the American Cancer Association, but another group. And their conclusion was also that they're not comfortable with those guidelines and that it should be an individual discussion with the patient, which, you know, we like much better, obviously, because Yeah, if you take a woman who has, for instance, a family history, maybe she has two maternal aunts who have had breast cancer, and she feels a mass at age 41 in her breast, I don't think you can reasonably ever consider saying, oh, you have to wait till 45 before we take a look at that. And by the way, the new recommendation is don't do a self breast exam, so you never should have found that mass. That's
Yeah.
that just goes against everything we tend to think about the individual and individual care.
Well, folks, you're joining us live. We're KEXB 620 AM. We've got Dr. Norm Clothier on. He's with Family Healthcare Associates. In fact, this segment is brought to you by Family Healthcare Associates. They are all of your family healthcare needs, from prenatal to seniors. Family Healthcare Associates. You can find them at fhcatx.com. That's fhcatx.com. Dr. Clothier, we talked about that and the controversy with that, but there's also a lot of controversy in regards to teenage pregnancy. When do you have your female
Right.
exam?
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people, their concept is that female exam could do more damage than it can help.
Yeah, and I do understand that viewpoint. I think going back to what we mentioned a few weeks ago about examination in general with the doctor, no doctor I've ever known is there to cause any harm whatsoever. In fact, our mantra is first do no harm. And I think it is reasonable. I think everyone needs to realize that we each have a human body, and at some point, someone who is professional and has your best interest in mind may need to do some examination of that human body. And I think it is unfortunate that sometimes the female exam, which I think we can most reasonably call the pap smear in general or pelvic exam, is something that women avoid because they somehow view it as some form or another of assault. And I do agree that it's a very sensitive issue, and I think no one wants to think about having to go in for a very personal exam. But I can tell you that doctors view it as a very objective, you're there to take care of the person type of a deal. And I know doctors, every doctor I know is the same way. You never think of the person as an individual, the way their body is. I tend to hear people make comments like, oh, I don't want you to see that I'm a little overweight, or I have a scar, or, you're probably going to make fun of me because I have whatever it is, a mole or whatever. You never view a person that way. I mean, I don't think about the individual body as, I would never go make jokes about that. I like to tease people, and I like to be a little cynical at times, but that is a line I don't cross. That is that person's health and that person's care, and that is first and foremost at all times.
Well, folks, I'll tell you what, we are talking with Dr. Norm Clothier. When we come back from the break, we are going to talk about the very sensitive topic of what do I do when my teenage daughter gets pregnant? So stay tuned. We are Dr. Norm Clothier and Callie Robinson here on JP, Dr. B, and Callie. We'll be right back. We're 620 AM KEXB.
So,
I went ahead and cut us off a little bit short,
Yeah,
so
that's
we
fine.
have more time
sure, that
between
sounds great,
now
actually.
and 6:30.
I think that's a great idea. That's not a short topic.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, and I
good
forgot to
thing.
tell you that I think what I wanted to start doing on the first segment
Uh-huh.
is I'm wanting to finish the first segment on all of my shows now by like 6:08, 6:09.
Oh, okay.
I think more people are awake
Sure.
between
Yeah,
6:10 and 6:30 than they are between 6 o'clock and 6:10. People, yes.
I think you need to do a demographic study on that.
I've turned it
Because
down.
you don't have enough else to do.
I know
Yeah,
you don't.
so, yeah.
He turned it down because of the buzzing.
All right, check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. I mean, I'm way up
Yeah,
now.
I'm not sure what's buzzing.
But I can hear the buzz. I mean,
oh, yeah.
it's a big buzz.
And
It's
it's
not even
there.
a little buzz.
Is it maybe
Yeah.
one of the electronics getting feedback?
No, we have not changed anything. Oh, you're going to show me what I'm going to hear. Well, I tell you, I'm going to tell
The
you.
color
what,
of
you,
noise, yes.
if I didn't know any better, I would swear that Jesus made you a prophet. And we're about to have the apostle Sharabius. Oh, I am. Oh, I am. Oh, so I'm going to visualize this. I'm going to visualize what I'm hearing. Oh, wow. You're going to trigger that part of my brain this early in the morning. I think there might be something medically wrong with that.
Yeah,
didn't
I
know.
saw him slip you the little deal.
Yeah, he
there.
did slip
You
it to me,
even
didn't he? I
notice.
didn't
Yeah.
catch it, yeah. Yeah, Quaaludes is not fun at 6 o'clock in the morning. Whoa.
Oh, now that's going way back. Yeah,
That's going way back. The charges against you? Oh, against Colin.
oh, interesting.
And we'll talk about that on Friday. Don't forget to bring that up. Quaalude. Hey, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Had not heard that one in a while.
All right.
So do you legally drop the Mustang then? Is that,
Yes.
wow.
It's no longer on
That's-
my license.
Yeah. That is incredible. So,
So when we
That's
come
great.
back, Dr. Clothier, let's really hit it pretty good.
yeah, I will.
And let's
I'll just
continue
briefly
it.
mention the pap smear recommendation, then we'll go from there because part of that is age of onset of sexual activity, and that goes right to that, I think.
Do you want to be here the same time that I have Dr. Michael? Can't remember Michael's last name. He is the only certified, advertised pro-life OBGYN.
Really? Is that right?
Yes.
When's that going to be?
I'm trying to work that out. I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, let me know and I'll do what I can.
Well,
I'd love to.
it may not be a bad thing for us to bring him on maybe next Monday,
Sure.
because I'm going to want to continue this conversation.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to be done today.
And
Yeah.
maybe let him give his perspective as a
A
only
pro-life
sort of-
obstetrician. Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
So now let me ask you
Because
this.
I dare him to be more pro-life than me. I bet he's not. I bet we're about the
I don't
same
know.
there. Yeah.
I
You're
don't
either
know.
pro-life or you're
Debate
not.
on air.
Yeah.
Who's more pro-life?
Yeah, that's right. I'll arm wrestle. Well,
You guys are killing me. I can't get any work done. You tell me, I'm being so funny. I'd almost like you to host,
yeah.
and you and him have that
Okay.
conversation.
That's great.
I'll bring the show in, take the show out, but it's your guys' show.
We can make it like Dr. C. Callie and sometimes JP.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Occasionally, JP.
Right.
Oh, stand by. Here
That's
we
part
go.
of my plan. Okay.
I'll send you his information.
That'd be great. I'd like to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, we are rocking it from the Delta to the DMZ here at 620 AM KEXB. We have got Dr. Norm Clothier and Callie both in studio this morning, and we are rocking the conversation of women's health and the controversy. I mean, Dr. Clothier, this weekend I was telling you at one of the breaks that I had Googled women's health and couldn't believe how many different opinions there are out there.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. And I tell you, the part of the challenge is the inherent nature of people wondering why a recommendation is a certain recommendation. There are people that are concerned that the government changes with healthcare are all designed to reduce care and take away that care, and that may be part of the reason that mammograms are 45 to 54 then every other year possibly is so that basically people can be eased into death earlier and whatever. I don't take it that far. I think while you still have your personal physician, you will have an advocate for your health care. And, we don't reach a point where we're going to cut somebody off. And no doctor I know wants to reduce care to somebody to prolong their life, because we are, by our very nature, very proactive about life and pro-life and continuation of quality of life and good health. So it's not something where doctors are going to get in there and say, oh yeah, we don't want, this person to necessarily live too long, whatever. That will not happen as long as you have doctors with any personal input to the care at all. And thankfully, we're still there.
Dr. Clothier, you and I are both fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and we have daughters.
Absolutely.
Both of us do. And Callie is a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and so this may make this conversation even a little more interesting, because I would like
Sure.
to hear her input on from a daughter's perspective and how she looks at it, but from a professional doctor perspective, not the dad. I'm going to be the dad, you're going to be the doctor today,
Okay,
and Callie's
sure.
going to be the daughter. But from that perspective, 15-year-old goes out.
Mm-hmm.
She gets herself into a situation Maybe she wanted to, but didn't understand the full complexity of it. Didn't want to, but it just happened. And now, boom, we are pregnant.
Sure.
And let's say she comes to you and says, oh, you're out coaching basketball. Young lady comes up to you, her brother plays on your team, says, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to approach my parents. Should I even approach my parents? I think I'm pregnant.
That's a very fair question. First, let me put that in the medical perspective of, we've often talked about screening, and all women, adult women, have grown up with the issue of have a pap smear every year with the screening
Over
for
the age of
cervical
21,
cancer.
correct?
Well, now it is, right. Now, about 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, it was a pap smear starting at the age of sexual activity once a year for basically the rest of your life. Now the recommendation, because the realization that it's really just screening cervical cancer, is to do start at age 21, so that's regardless of the age of onset of sexual activity, and then every 3 years till 30, and then every 3 to 5 years from 30 to 65, if they're screening for the human papillomavirus, which we know is involved in cervical cancer. So you could go every 3 years, 21, 30, every 5 years, 30 to 65 if you have the HPV test. And so that's very different. So what I found, what all that is to lead up to, and that's partly better technology, better understanding of what we're screening, and better ways to screen for cervical cancer. But the challenge is, the case that JP was just mentioning is, if you have a 15-year-old who's sexually active, they still need to have a pelvic exam to check for sexually transmitted diseases, and for any other health concern. And obviously, if that health concern is pregnancy, they got to check. So to answer your question about what that 15-year-old should be told, first of all, or should do, communication is such a huge key. There should be no cutoff of communication between parent and child. And I tell you, I don't run across situations that are more difficult than teenage sexual activity to deal with from a communication standpoint. I think that many people, if they found their daughter or son to be drinking alcohol underage, would say, we got to sit down and talk about this, set some parameters, have some trust, and figure out a way to deal with it. If they had a situation where it was drugs, they would do a similar thing. You'd want to talk about it, have a little, have some parameters you set, some trust issues between parent and child. Similarly, if they found out they were a kleptomaniac stealing makeup from the store or whatever, I think we would view all those things differently than we view sexual activity. Unfortunately, with sexual activity, what tends to happen is people want to shut down and say, I can't believe you did this. And, we don't even know what to do. We've always told you not to do this, and I can't believe you did it. And so it is a natural, huge barrier, partly because no parent is really ready for their child to be an adult in their behavior. And that's, we also know no parent's ever done being a parent. We're always going to be caring for our kids, loving our kids no matter what. You want to know where they are, make sure they're safe, that there's not something going on that's harmful to them. And what we tend to find, and what I tend to find from the Christian perspective, is that I think we are far more forgiving and understanding if somebody does something that is easily reversed. Like, if you steal gum from a store, you can take that back, apologize to the manager, offer to pay for it, and you're done. If you get pregnant, it's not that way.
Right. There's no reverse on that.
Exactly. And that baby is not at fault. And I want to emphasize that the reason you want to continue the relationship, keep communication open. Don't tell your daughter, oh, I can't believe you did this. You're out of the will. You're out of my house. You're, on your own. You got to, pay the price. She will pay the price because she will have a child to raise. And that's a life changer like nothing else. Nobody without a baby understands that a baby takes all of your time, continually. And you can't just easily work, go to school, go hang out with friends, go, to the prom and whatever when there's a baby around without making significant adjustments to your life. But again, it's not the baby's fault. And I would tend to say, and this is one of those great controversial issues too, I think it's rarely the actual fault of the person who got involved in the pregnancy. We have a lot of issues to deal with as humans, and one of the biggest is hormones. And hormones drive things like crazy. You have young men who are driven aggressively with testosterone. You have young women who are Literally, there is something to the fertility phase of the cycle, basically, where there's more interest in the male around them, and you put those two together, you have driven hormones and accepting hormones, and pretty soon you have mistakes that get made, and the irony I find in that too is if you have somebody who's sexually active and gets a disease, let's say they contract chlamydia, that can cause scarring of the fallopian tubes and lack of the ability to get pregnant in the future and all kinds of issues going on with that. But if there's no pregnancy, that rarely gets talked about much in terms of there's no public face to that. So you may have somebody at more risk who's sexually active but not pregnant than someone who, becomes sexually active for a short phase of time, becomes pregnant, and then has the baby to take care of for, the rest of that child's life.
Well,
And it's a great irony there.
well, and from a girl's perspective, I mean, you're what, 21, right, Callie?
Yeah.
So we're young, right? Dial back just even 3 years. Dial back to when you're 18. You end up pregnant. I mean, how as a girl do you feel? And I'm sure that there's somebody out there saying she's a woman. Quit calling her a girl. Well, that's not what we intend.
Right.
You're young. At 18, you are very, very young. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people back in the 30s and the 40s, they were getting married at 15, 16,
Oh,
and having their first child
18
at 17.
would be like you're way too old to have a baby.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were
Oh,
also
that's very true.
you were dying at 35.
Right.
40 years old.
Mhm.
And so nowadays we're living a lot longer. People, and it's not that. And so, anyways, let me get back to
Yes.
this.
There are
So,
many issues there.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
Callie, I mean, how do you feel? I mean, what's going through your mind, and who do you go talk to? Can you trust your family doctor? Do you go to your family doctor first? Do you go to your parents first? What terror is going through you when this happens?
I would definitely make sure, like 110%, I was pregnant before I told my parents, because I wouldn't want to be like, I think I'm pregnant, but I'm not sure. Like, I would want to seem responsible enough to go to the doctor and know for sure before I tell anyone.
So then your first stop is going to be your family doctor.
Yeah, definitely. And first of all, I just want to put it out there that I get outraged when people are like, well, it's the girl's fault. Well, no, it takes two to tango. And
Oh,
your
absolutely.
son can knock
Yes.
up 10 women in 1 week. Your daughter can get pregnant once in 9 months.
Mhm.
So lock up your sons, too.
Lock
Yes.
up
Not
your
just-
son.
And I think you're absolutely right. And Callie, we were talking off the air earlier too about how you cannot know where your child is at all
Right.
times. And I think the issue of pregnancy and sexual activity also deals in parental failure feelings. And there again, if you have raised your child perfectly, which by the way will not happen, but if you have tried to, and going back to the analogy of stealing gum from the convenience store or whatever, you may think, boy, I can't believe there was that flaw. But that's different than if someone becomes sexually active and pregnant. And then you start thinking, how have I failed that child as, was I not a loving enough parent? Was I, not watching closely enough where they are? And now especially, too, when there are phone apps where you can track someone somewhere and whatever, very well, I'm sure, that every teenager is 2 steps ahead of their parents on that, first of all. And secondly, you're dealing with an individual soul. And there is, if nothing else, we are as parents to raise our children to be independent. And we may hate it when they become independent. And that may be at age 15 for some people, age 28 for others, and age 22 for the third. And, it's very, very different. But, the bottom line is people make choices. And much like we don't have sick people around or going to the doctor's office, we have a lot of sick people. We're not there only for the perfectly healthy and, perfect person. Similarly with churches, you're not looking for, the people who are perfect. You're looking for the people who want to seek forgiveness and comfort and fellowship and finding, better ways to make better choices in their life. And all of us have flaws and sin issues. And, we just have to realize some of them have more implication than others, but they are still issues of being human. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where that communication is so challenging, because like you said, you don't want to say, oh, I might be pregnant, because of all that it opens up.
Yeah.
And another challenge that we need to discuss another week is the issues of medical confidentiality if someone comes in and says, I think I might be pregnant, because under law they're liberated, and you cannot discuss that with the parents, and that's a big other topic.
Well, and I'll tell you what, Dr. Clothier, this is something I think we could talk about for about 3 weeks, and we might.
Yeah.
I mean, we may end up turning this into a women's health segment and subsetting it to teen pregnancy, what parents should do from a medical perspective. There's a lot to talk about, and in fact, I've got another doctor we're going to bring on, and I'm going to let you guys have a conversation. He's an OBGYN, and he is, I believe, the only certified OBGYN in the area that's pro-life, and I'm really excited about having him on. And so I think we're going to broach that conversation with him as well and talk about that doctor confidentiality and the next step and
Sure.
all of that good stuff. So I want to thank Dr. Clothier again for joining us on Mondays, as he always does, providing our listeners with fantastic medical information, necessary family medical information. Stay tuned. When we come back, Dallas Sports Insider makes its debut. And I'm going to tell you, Callie and I disagree on some things when the playoffs. I'm going to ask Dr. Clothier to stay in his seat for just a few more minutes and give us his predictions for the Super Bowl, so if he doesn't mind doing that. Stay tuned. We are KEXB 620 AM.
I can't believe still how fast that time goes by.
I know.
Boy,
It does, but you know
there's
what?
so
That
much
was
more to say. Yeah.
I do like that big chunk of segment,
I
though.
do.
Yeah. Oh, that definitely worked
I
better.
really
yeah.
like that.
I
think,
agree. That's a good shift.
No, that was good. No, you know what I think, though? I do seriously think if we can do it and get away with it, I think I would like to go to break at 6:08. Okay. It's because you got heart for me, Jackson. All right, so when hey, I sent you an email. Did you play it? Okay, so when we come back, we're going to hit Lori right off the bat.
Okay.
And then we'll go to Dr. Clothier's prediction, and then Callie and I are going to jump into this big bad dog. That's the only way to play.
What? Metaphor?
These sentences, these metaphors. You know, it's early in the morning. I just happen to make them up.
Which one?
Really?
Really?
The two of you?
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea.
The
what
wrath,
you're talking
what, the
about.
wrath of John? I'm going to kill him?
What?
I don't know, but is that taped?
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Mow him over?
How about discombobulation?
Discombobulation is good.
That's a good Monday morning word.
No, it's another
Couldn't
word,
be
Dr.
better.
Clothier. It's
Yeah,
another
couldn't
word.
be better. That-
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, I mean, your wife makes a lot of money, so why don't we host it at your house?
What does your wife do? Oh, okay.
See, she can give us a really good party.
Huh?
and it's probably a write-off.
It
that's,
probably
yeah,
is,
that's
yeah.
not bad. Yeah. I do. Yeah. Both of them have worked for me. Both are off at school right now, but they one's worked for me off and on for 4 years, and one for 3 years. And what's that? One goes to Oklahoma Christian University, and one to Harding University in Searcy, Arkansas. So, no, I mean they're about 4 hours apart. One's 5 hours from here, one's 3 hours from here. So, and I have another son at Oklahoma Christian too. Not between campuses, just back at home, really. Yeah. Just because college is busy, you know.
How long has Jonathan Stewart been in the NFL? See, this is the stuff we have to know. Because Jonathan Stewart's been in the NFL for a long time. He's never gotten to taste playoff football like he is right now. and he actually led the Panthers on their first drive
Hmm.
down to the end zone against Seattle in the first quarter. So that's pretty
That's pretty
important.
big deal. That's a good, compelling story.
Yeah.
Since 08.
Well, I tell you, you got to love some Tina Turner. Good morning. You're back with JP, Dr. B, and Callie. We are on point. We have got Dr. Clothier. We have held him captive. But before we get to his predictions for the Super Bowl, we want to thank All Smiles Dentistry. They have served Allen residents for 15 years and the official team dentist for the Allen Americans hockey team the last 7 years. All Smiles can help you identify and prioritize your dental problems early, maximizing your dental benefit. Call 972-747-1996. That's 972-747-1996. And so, folks, we always love to inspire. Lori helps us with that. With the choice, as always, is yours. All right. Well, that fits right in with our teen pregnancy conversation
Yes,
earlier.
indeed.
That's for sure. You know,
Yes, it does.
She's always timely. Has no
Yeah.
idea what we're talking about.
It is
but-
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, we'll talk teen pregnancy again next week, Dr. Clothier. Let's talk NFL football. It's playoff time, folks. Welcome to Dallas Sports Insider here on Point with JP, Dr. B, and Callie are in one of our new segments out. So Dr. Clothier, I mean, we had some great football this weekend.
Yes, yeah, the games were really pretty incredible. And going back to the national championship college football game, that was an incredible game. This is a good time for football fans.
It really is. It's a great year for
Absolutely.
football. So, Dr.
Yeah.
Clothier, the Super Bowl is around the corner.
Yeah. It's 3 weeks from yesterday, so I just want to frame that up as my prediction that in 3 weeks, nobody knows what the weather will be like or, how the financial markets will be, but that's why it's kind of interesting, I think, to make a prediction. And, of course, this prediction will come true. And it's
Of
not
course it
because not because I'm a fan, but I think if you look at playoff ball, and this is in all sports, it's baseball, basketball, football, I always feel like it's the team with the right momentum at the right time. You must peak at the correct time. You must get your injuries cleared up at the right time. The New England Patriots, once again, as it seems they always are, but that's the reason, are in position to win the Super Bowl because they gained Edelman back. Brady's on top of the game. You know, back in about week 7 or 8 of the season, people were saying, well, they're not looking that good, not looking that sharp. That's okay. You get through the regular season, you get to the playoff, you peak at the right time, you're okay. I'm going to predict that it'll be New England over Arizona. One reason there, if you look at Carolina, for instance, in their game yesterday, they went ahead, 31-0, and then barely hung on to win 31-24. That shows me a lack of basically that momentum that they need. They need to be able to put their foot on the accelerator and keep it there. They had a great start against a Seattle team that was tired because they were in an East Coast game in the early game, and they looked tired in the first half. When they came to life, all they did was run out of time to come back and win that game. And I think Carolina peaked at about week 10 to 12 or so, and we're looking incredible, and I think their time of their peak play is basically over. So I will predict that Arizona and New England make it through the playoffs here, and then New England will win.
All right, so Dr. Clothier's going with momentum.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you can come around. Absolutely. Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's a whole different topic too. But talk about momentum, you gotta cheat at the right times too, right? Yeah, so no, unfortunately,
If there's a time, there's got to be the right time.
yeah. So you think the Patriots will beat them though, right? Oh, interesting. Well, we shall see. Like I said, it's 3 weeks out. A lot can happen in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Sure. Right. Yeah, it really will. It's a good time for football fans, absolutely.
It really is. Well, Dr. Clay,
Very
we're going to
good.
let you get out
Thank
of here.
you.
We know you've got patients to get to. Well, Callie, I'll tell you what, this is going to be quite a weekend we have coming up. But before we get into that, let's talk quarterbacks. You know, you've got Peyton Manning versus Tom Brady. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know that you can get any more gigantic than those two guys. First,
Two greatest quarterbacks.
yeah, I mean,
of the 21st century.
absolutely. I mean, these two guys are Hall of Famers. There's no doubt about it. You know, between the two of them, they have just racked up all kinds of regular season wins, playoff wins. Of course, you know, Tom Brady is going to have the lead on Super Bowl victories over Peyton Manning, playoff victories, but you can't take away from clutch playing. And I'm gonna, you know, so what do you think? What are you thinking about this head-to-head battle between Peyton Manning and Tom Brady?
Well, I'm just going to say neither one of them has won on the other's home field in the postseason. So they're playing in Denver, correct?
They are.
So,
They're playing in Denver.
So it's on Broncos side.
So Callie's going with home field advantage, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and he only has one ring. Brady has 4. Mhm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He's gonna work a lot harder. Yeah, I know if I was going against Tom Brady, I would be going a lot harder than normal. I would know what I'm getting myself into, and you know this is not going to be easy.
You think so? Well, I wouldn't hurt him. Well, I'll tell you what. You know, here's my deal on it. Peyton Manning goes down with a foot injury in Week 10. He led the NFL with 17 interceptions, coupled with a horrendous end to 2014. Right? I mean, Manning, with a span of 13 starts in which he threw 12 touchdowns with 23 interceptions, heading into Sunday's outing against Pittsburgh. And guess who wins? Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. Now, don't get me wrong, the Pittsburgh Steelers were ravaged with injuries. And, of course, you know, I'm a little bit biased because I'm a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So all you Dallas Cowboy fans probably just croaked right now. But they're the AFC, not the NFC. So give me a break. But the bottom line is that here you have Peyton Manning, who has struggled leading up to this game, injured, having a horrible end of 2014, and was able to lead his Broncos past the Steelers 23-16.
Yeah.
Well, see, and I'm going to go back to I'm glad you talked about our good friend John Elway in the Denver Broncos, because I'm going to go back there and I'm going to talk about what it means to be a clutch quarterback. Now, of course, the bad news is, and Callie's going to look this up for us on the next break, but you know, how many times has Tom Brady brought the Patriots back to win versus Peyton Manning versus the tradition in Denver, right? Because John Elway, I mean, he was Mr. Clutch. You know, he got 68 seconds on the clock, and John Elway's at his own 5-yard line, and the Broncos win with no time left on the clock. Well, guess what Peyton Manning does? Peyton Manning does the exact same thing, right? Peyton Manning, who didn't have a very great game on Saturday, he was only 21 of 37 for 222 yards, no touchdowns, no picks though, but nothing spectacular to speak of. He didn't throw for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions. But what did he do though? He simply took control of the game when it came down to the end of it, controlled the tempo, didn't turn the ball over, and he led the Broncos on a 13-play, 65-yard drive midway through the fourth quarter that gave the Broncos the lead for good. I mean, that in itself is a champion, where he let his team do it and he didn't get in the way and make a mistake. You know, that's also comparable to Trent Dilfer. I'm going to tell
I
you.
think so.
I'm going to tell you straight up. Denver beats New England. That's right. I said it.
I agree. I'm
I
going
said it.
complete opposite of Dr. Clothier and saying Panthers versus Broncos in the Super Bowl 50.
See, and I think that Callie's full of it too, and we're going to talk about that when we
Oh,
come
great.
back from the break.
That wouldn't
So,
be the first time.
yeah, it wouldn't be the first time. I'm going to tell you again on the air though this time. So we're going to take a break, folks. We're 620 AM KEXB, and we are introducing Dallas Sports Insider. We will very quickly become the information highway for you for Texas Rangers baseball, Dallas Stars hockey, Dallas Mavericks, and also your local high school sports, because we're going to engage local coaches. So if you have something you want to talk about when it comes to high school sports, plug into us. Give us a call. We're at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about the NFL playoffs and who we're predicting for the Super Bowl. We'll be right back. Brian should be calling in about
6:48.
6:48.
Do we
So-
want to do weather right before him?
Yeah, we could do weather.
Okay.
Make it quick. What do you think about our sports conversation? I want to make it controversial. Like, I want to get, in Callie's face and get Callie in my face and you going off mediating or whatever, I want to have fun with it. Right. Well, we'll come back to them next week and draw comparisons to where they're at.
Maybe. Of course. I'm taking Wednesdays off from now on. No, I'm usually off Thursdays. Yeah. Newton's never been to the Super Bowl. Palmer's been 3 times. So it's like Manning and Newton are both going to try harder than normal because they want, I believe, more.
When was the last time Carson Palmer was in a playoff game?
Last time I went to the Super Bowl, I know was, well, I just had 15? No, Pro Bowl. Or Super Bowl. I just saw
No, playoff. When was the last time he was in the playoffs? Carson Palmer's had a hard career. What? What? What's that? Yeah?
Cardinals? Who?
Really?
Who?
Well, let's talk about that too. That's interesting. I remember that game.
Consecutively?
Would that be consecutively?
I'm going to the rodeo tomorrow.
In Houston?
Hell no, why would I go to Houston?
Oh, in Fort Worth.
Yes.
Go by and see. Well, Luke's not there yet.
So you gonna be there?
Yeah.
What? Redo? Do a redo?
Hey, Friday, by the way, I'm going to be getting some audio. Part of the 50th anniversary of the Super Bowl, NFL players, where they've graduated from high school, are going back to their high schools to give an award to the high schools. Yeah.
I'm not finding freaking playoffs. All I find is...
Look up his career.
I am. It's not telling me playoffs. Playoff game log.
Type in Carson Palmer ever been in the playoffs. Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to JP, Dr. B, and Callie. We are on point, and we are talking Dallas Sports Insiders today. One of our new segments that we're introducing. We are talking NFL playoffs, and we've kind of already set the stage a little bit. I have chosen my friend Peyton Manning over Tom Brady. I think that Peyton Manning has a lot to prove. I think that against the Steelers, he proved that even though he doesn't have to, or he proved that he doesn't have to be everything for the Broncos for them to win against a good football team. And James Harrison, he went into the NFL. He's a 37-year-old, and he had a great game for the Steelers, but just not enough as Manning was able to manage the Broncos down the field to pull out that victory. And I think Manning's got a lot to prove. And, Tom Brady, he's already laid himself out into NFL lure, and I think that Peyton Manning feels like he may still need one more Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
And so I think that Peyton Manning's got a lot to prove. I'm going to put the Broncos from the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think they're going to get there. Now, of course, Sharavius, you found out some interesting information from 2002, right? 2003 or 4, somewhere in there? Who'd they play? The Patriots. So, well, we're going to have to wait and see on that deal. But that's kind of an interesting statistic that we had the Panthers and the Patriots already in the Super Bowl one time, so this may happen again. Well, let's shift over to the NFC. We've got the Cardinals, and they are facing off against Cam Newton and the Panthers. Talk about a storied run this season. The Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
What do you have to say, right? So I'm going to go ahead and jump out there right now and say they lose. Arizona Cardinals take this football game, and I'll give my analysis after your prediction and where you're going with this.
Well, I think the Panthers are going to win. Newton does not have a ring. All the others, the only other one that doesn't have a ring is Palmer.
Well, that's who's facing off, though.
I do think that Newton's going to try a little harder just because he has, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I don't know, more of a drive. I think he has more of a drive.
So you think Cam Newton or Palmer?
Newton.
So you're going with the Panthers then?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think the Panthers have a chance. I think they proved that against Seattle Seahawks against the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are down 31-0, and they come back and they should have won that football game. In fact, there's some questions right now on whether Pete Carroll made the right call late in the second quarter to not take the points. The Cardinals. Yes. The Cardinals and Packers.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think Carson Palmer's got something to prove. Where I think Cam Newton comes into this thing, and he doesn't have anything to prove. Carson Palmer goes in against Green Bay, having a pretty darn good season so far, and has the worst game he's had since 2011 when he was throwing the rock in the Oakland Coliseum for the Raiders. A horrible game. He throws 2 interceptions. Throw after throw is questionable. There's no doubt. He can't get any kind of consistency going. In fact, they could have the Green Bay Packers should have had 4 or 5 picks. In fact, when you look at what Sam Shields did for the Packers, he had the football, and easily that would have been a pick 6 for the Packers. Game over in the fourth quarter, but he drops the football. Correct. See, I think Carson Palmer sees this as his last chance. He's no young chicken. Right. Oh, I think so. I think Palmer has more to lose. I think that truly he's got to believe this is his last possibility of winning a Super Bowl. And he showed you how great he can be when he avoided the pressure when he threw the ball down, 75 yards to Larry Fitzgerald in overtime to win the football game, right? I mean, that was amazing. Did anybody see that? Did you catch that? That was a great scramble. I mean, I'm like, wow, this is better than going to Denny's and getting a scrambled egg. Egg whites, right? I tell you what. So, and Larry Fitzgerald has played, I want to say, in like his 139th football game. And this guy's had 2 ACLs. He's had all kinds of injuries. This is Larry Fitzgerald's last time. You don't think Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer are going to go into this football game pumped? Don't get me wrong, Cam Newton knows how to get up for a game. But I think these two guys who are veterans, they see it as their last rodeo. And I promise you, the young guys, they see this as a chance to give Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald their opportunity at a Super Bowl ring.
And I think they know that all the eyes are on the older veterans. So that makes me think that they're going to try harder. They're like, well, all eyes are on them, but I'm going to show them what I got.
So I don't know. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I mean, the Panthers' defense is pretty stout. They do a great job. But if Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks can take this 31-0 lead and make this thing a football game, where the Seahawks really, when they finally showed up in the second half, could have put this game away. I'm telling you guys, I'm going with the fact that you've got a young team in Arizona that wants to see their 2 veterans walk out with a Super Bowl, because these 2 guys have gotten them there this year, and their defense has been stout. I just think there's more drive there. Whereas with Cam Newton, and I guess you could say the same thing about Jonathan Stewart, right? I mean, Jonathan Stewart, he's one who opened up the game against Seattle with a 75-yard drive that capped off with a 4-yard touchdown run, and he's been in the NFL and hasn't seen this. I don't know. You think so? I don't think so. No. They were in a Super Bowl not too far back. I'll have to look it up for you. Callie, look it up. Callie will look it up for us. I think the Cardinals were there, or at least in the NFC Championship game not too far back. We'll look it up. But nonetheless, the bottom line is that Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald have something to prove. And I think that they've got their chance to take advantage of the fact that this is probably their last run. So, anyways, we'll let.
They were in the Super Bowl in 2009.
Yeah, there you go.
Against the Steelers.
Against the Steelers.
And they lost.
Yeah, but they were in there though.
Right.
So I think he's going to be all right. There have been. Well, Brian, I tell you what. Welcome to the show, Dallas Sports Insider, and I tell you what, we're in here. We're fighting, Brian. Yeah. Yeah, I knew it's about 2009. I just couldn't remember what year, and I didn't want to say it wrong on the radio, because once you say it, it's out there, that's for sure. Well, Brian, let's talk about that New Year's resolution we made back on January the 1st. And I say back to make it sound like it's been so long ago, but I promise you that people are ready to start to crack and not finish up that New Year's resolution. How do we help them get through this hard time to keep going? Wow. Well, and the thing that I've seen a lot on Facebook and social media across the board is there's a sign posted in many gyms that says 80% of what you eat, it makes up your whole deal, and 20% is working out. And if you're not going to eat right, then working out's not going to make a difference. So even if people stop working out for now, I mean, I would think that probably the best advice is don't stop eating right. So, Brian, 2 quick tips to stay eating right and stay that path. All right. Well, folks, I'll tell you what, we are coming to an end of our show. Brian, thanks for joining us. Folks, we are JP, Dr. B, and Callie. We brought you out Dallas Sports Insiders tomorrow. Stay tuned for our Student Teacher of the Week. Also, our Biz Tips by Deanna Kay, and our Real Person, Real Solutions. So stay tuned. Brian Glenn comes on with DFW Business Authority.
That went super fast.
What were you going to say?
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh, you hit the pad like you wanted to say something. That's why I stopped like
Oh.
mid-speech.
Oh no.
I was
Sorry,
like,
I was just getting us ready to dip for you.
oh.
I'm sorry.
Thought you were getting
I
ready
thought
to-
Travis threw you off. Like,
No, I thought, I'm like, are you getting ready to read something? Am I missing something?
No,
here?
I'm sorry.
Me.
Here's your pad.
You just said that. Oh, I think, well, it's got low battery, but yeah, it's still recording.
That's okay. I don't care.
Oh, maybe it stopped recording.
No,